All right. Welcome everybody to Paradigm's 10th live stream in about 2 months. So every Wednesday at around 11:30 a.m. PT, we're hosting these live streams where we're discussing various Paradigm features. And this week we're especially excited because we're doing a comparison of Paradigm versus DBT Cloud, led by Fabio, again, our co-founder. We also have Kaustav, the other Paradigm co-founder, on the call. And most of the demonstration today is going to be around Paradigm versus DBT Cloud in regards to DBT development. And before Fabio does the live demonstration, Kaustav's going to walk us through some fun tidbits. So Kaustav, the time's yours.
Awesome. So yeah, I think this is our 10th live stream. We thought it would be great to do a comparison of how Paradigm stacks much better against DBT Cloud from a development experience. This is something that we always talk about with folks who are looking for an alternative to their existing development experience, or folks who are looking for options if they are looking to move to DBT for the first time. So I'm going to quickly run through a few salient points of where Paradigm shines. And then Fabio is going to take over and demo how that actually looks like from a product standpoint. So very simply, I think the main area where I think we do a lot better is in terms of development velocity. We recently released a case study with one of our customers, Motive, where they saw a 10x increase in their developer productivity as it pertains to analytics engineering. And a lot of that actually is driven by the fact that Paradigm's development experience is AI native and AI first. As a result, in today's day and age, analytics engineers are able to do their day-to-day work 10x faster, write code 90% less, and as a result they can use AI to automate about 99% of their rote work. The areas around linting, I think we have very comparable and similar features. There's not much to say there. Then in terms of like data apps that we support, a key point of difference here is that the lineage that end users can see within the Paradigm Code IDE is a cross-platform lineage that spans across all your DBT models, but also goes into the BI layer. So that could be Looker, could be Tableau, ThoughtSpot, Power BI, Sigma, and others. But the main difference is that these are all based on API and they are always kept up to date. So you do not really need to write exposures. No manual effort is actually needed. We also support documentation, so you can see docs based on what is in your YAML files within the code IDE. And then the last bit is that the Paradigm IDE goes beyond DBT. So you can use the code IDE to write code in Python. You have access to apps like Streamlit, or if you are a fan of diagram as code, you can use Mermaid.js to actually explain what you're developing, your lineage in code, and commit that. Essentially, we've crafted the platform from the ground up to make sure that analytics engineers who don't like to do DevOps have a purpose-built platform available on the cloud, available in the browser, that helps you do things as fast as 10x compared to not having a Paradigm available to you. So I'll stop there and I'll let Fabio take over and actually show how that translates in real life when you use the product.
Yeah, let's dive in our code IDE. I think from our side, what we always going to build was a first-in-class cloud IDE that sits on the browser and can really power some of the more complex workflows that data engineers tend to perform. Aside from, of course, our left tree here, which contains all our code, the first thing you'll probably notice is our terminal. So terminal is something which Paradime is built on top of, which makes sure that you can run anything really you want within the Paradigm shell. The first thing I want to show is how, for example, with Paradigm, we support Python, which means that we can build, create Python script and run them, but from terminal, both orchestrate them, which we'll see in the next live stream. Here, for example, I have a simple poetry file, and I can run any Python command I want. So for example, what I'm going to do now is I want to run my DLT hub pipeline, which I have here. So if I go, I'll show you here. So this is my Python file, which has all the different snippets of code and standardizations I want. And as you can see now, I can actually run my Python ingestion directly from the terminal. I can test this as I keep developing my code all in one single place. Yes, we run dbt, but you can run Python, and this work makes Paradime extremely powerful. Whether that is custom script, ingestion script, you can run them all. The other thing which I'm also super excited about is around how can we interact with our file system. Often it happens that we'll be looking not only for a file name, but we're looking for a certain piece of text or a string, things that they're available in the best-in-class IDEs today. So what we support in Paradime is the ability to do file search, file and replace within files. So for example, let's say I want to search for all files that contains a not null test, for example. So I can easily search for these files, rather the files that contain this text. I can see here I have 2 schema files in here, and I can search, I can see all the entries that exist. I have 23 not null tests in these schema files, and I have 2 here. I can, of course, also do string manipulation. So for example, if I want to rename some of the test definitions I have, I can type test, and I can also use the files to include or exclude using regex. So for example, if I now want to include only YAML files in my search results, then I can do that pretty easily. So everything which is around updating and modifying our files in our project as fast as possible, that's available within Paradime out of the box, which is pretty awesome. The other thing around the IDE, which I'm also very excited about, it is when we look at the file, we provide everything you need in one single place for your DBT model. So the first thing we can see, I have my data explorer here. I can see my compile SQL. I can, of course, preview the data here and see what the output of that SQL looks like. We have the ability to see the lineage, which I'm going to touch upon later, how these expand, as Kaustav mentioned, cross-platform in different areas. And also another one, which I find pretty powerful, is having the ability to glance over our DBT documentation on the fly without having to keep switching context. Using the catalog feature within the docs panel, I can actually see the description is available, any additional information is available for this DBT model I'm looking at without having to open different files anywhere. The other things which I found pretty cool, I have to say, this is actually coming from one of the feedback we got from one of our customers very early on, is in DBT, sometimes we use CSV files, and those CSV files can be kind of like hard to read. I'm just going to go and open one here. And what is actually pretty cool is that we integrate Rainbow CSV within Paradime, means that consuming data from a CSV file, from a seed, is a lot easier. In Paradime, you can also use some of the built-in feature to align the CSV files, so they are a lot easier for us to understand what the CSV file structure looks like and read them through. So all these things are available within the Paradime interface without having to do any sort of like management or installation there. When we talk about the Paradime IDE and the terminal, one thing is that not only we can run dbt command, we can run Python, of course, but it's effectively a fully fledged interface, which means that I can even run git command if I want to. So if you're an advanced user and you want to use the terminal, you can actually do that. For example, I click git add in here and press enter. I'm now staging my files in there. And then if I do git commit, there we go, commit -m, I'll do update my CSV. I can then do this too. Anything that you want to do with git is available within Paradime. You can use the terminal for it. But to be honest, I'm sometimes quite lazy, and I found that using Git Lite is a lot easier. When we look at the Git panel, what Paradime provides is 2 different modes. So Git Lite, which is what we showed today, and we'll go into some of the feature a bit more details. And then we also have the Git Advanced view. So if you're familiar with more advanced system, you want to do things like staging, stashing, popping commits, all these sort of things that some advanced user might be more familiar with, you actually don't lose them by using Paradime. They're all available to you here. Now, I'm going to switch to Git Lite for a moment, and I'm going to run you through a workflow. We haven't touched on the AI part yet. And of course, Paradime, it provides what we call crossover data. So it's like a super powerful and fully fledged agent that allows us to interact with our files. What we can do with it, for example, is, let's say the way how Paradime works on this front is we provide a set of constructs that allows you to work with our agent. One of them is the Dino rules, which allows you to define what kind of behavior you want and what kind of structure you want the agent to use while generating code or updating code. And then what we also have is prompt. So prompts is a way for you to create your own prompt library and reuse this library across your projects. For instance, now I'm going to go and ask the agent to create a new sources.yaml file for me. And one of the features that we provide within the agent is the ability to access metadata from your warehouse, which is extremely powerful while you're developing your DBT code. So you can see here, the agent is asking permissions to access my databases, to access my schema, and a few other information there. So I want to go and look into potentially some data that I've just loaded using DLT Hub. So I'm going to request to access the database called row in here. And the agent has now capability to fetch metadata from my database, from my schema, so that it can generate, update, write code for us as needed. It's now going to look, okay, I can see there's the F1 API load. I can click on accept. And now it's going to be fetching this metadata for us, building our sources.yaml based on the Dino rules I have on the back of this, and potentially others, as I'm finding more and more that can be used in there, so that creating or updating YAML files is super easy using the Paradime interface. While this is happening, I think something that makes me super excited about DinoAI is definitely how easy it becomes to do some of those tasks which are really not where I spend time on, which is generating description, generating sources, updating tests, all these sort of things that it will take us quite a lot of time. The first one is being created here. I can click on accept, and this is how easy it is in Paradime to start or kick off your DBT development workloads within the Paradime interface. A few other things that we want to show you here is that Paradime provides a set of what we call tools, and these are the ability for you to connect our agent to the tools where you work the most. So if you have Jira ticket, linear issue, then you want to import and let the agent take care of building, updating, or fixing the pipeline, you can do so by using some of our existing tools. Also, you have the ability to use Perplexity or web search to access relevant, up-to-date information from the browser, which makes it, again, even easier to build data pipeline and build more complex integration for your data transformation. The other things which I personally found super easy to use is nobody likes to write commit. And in the AI era, I think it makes a lot more sense to actually have our DinoAI to effectively create commits based on the changes that we are making. In Paradime, is as easy as clicking on a write commit button, and then the agent will suggest a commit message. We can, of course, update, remove, change the commit message if we want, but to be honest, I haven't seen anyone touching any of the commits message that the DinoAI agent is actually generating for us. So I can click on commit and push, and here is where ultimately we're going to create the commits, and this is the beauty of GitLite. It abstracts away completely the complexity of working with Git. We make sure that you can access more advanced features if you wish, but fundamentally with GitLite, you can do all the work you have to accomplish for your Git workflows or GitOps directly within the panel without having to actually do anything else on the front. This is from a development workflows. There are a few other things that I want to touch upon now, which is most recently we have developed the ability to use voice or speech to text to actually work and interact with the agent. So I can actually record myself talking with the agent to continue any type of task. For example, can you please now check if there is any other source I should update in any other databases available? And I can click on send. On the back of this, I can effectively interact with the agent in different ways and different formats. So again, make it as easy as possible for users to interact with it. The other thing, which is also built in within Paradime, and I'll show you while the agent is doing its work, is we support or we enabled within the Paradime interface a bunch of pre-built libraries that are available for users to work with. You've probably seen here, and I'll just go on this front. You probably see here that I have my pre-commit config.yaml and also the DBT checkpoint.yaml. So we see a lot of users are now building even more automation working with pre-commits checks. So Paradime supports this out of the box. And also, more importantly, we allow you to actually start from some templates that we support. So if I type Paradime pre-commits, you will get our own CLI that allows you to decide whether you want to run all your commits here, where you want to run commits only on changes file, where you want to add some of the recommended pre-commit hooks that are available. There's dbt checkpoint contain actually a lot of pretty powerful functionalities there that you can select from and just run directly from the terminal without having to manage or install anything else related to this kind of workflow. These are some of the top level features that we support within Paradime. Lastly, what I want to also show now is we talk about how Paradime is integrated with different tools and how it goes beyond dbt. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch to one of my other workspaces where I do have a bit more of a complex pipeline in there. And Paradime supports integrating with various different BI tools that allow users to understand more of what your data flow looks like and where your data pipeline is going. I can use the Lineage feature, Track View, and I can actually go full screen. And some of the things you will notice here is that we have our dbt models or dbt nodes here, but then we have new nodes type, which are our looker views and table data sources. So if I go now and maybe add 3 more layers, we'll see how this expands a bit more. And this is pretty common, right? So we work on dbt models, and dbt models are ultimately connected to our BI layer. How do we understand how our data flow goes beyond dbt without having to switch to another tool and go to the catalog and so on and so forth? In the Paradime interface now, you have the ability to understand all your dependencies. So I can see here that my order item legacy model is connected to a bunch of looker views. I also have some explorers on here and then dashboard in the looker front. We integrate with Looker, with ThoughtSpot, with Sigma, Power BI, Tableau. Plus, we provide something which is also extremely powerful, is the ability to use our custom API integration to actually feed any additional BI tools within the Paradime engine so that while you're developing your code, you can have full visibility on your whole data stack, whether that is some of your BI tools or charts or internal application that you might be powering from dbt. This makes the developer experience a lot more streamlined and gives you that ability to understand, if I change this column, where should I look for, rather than make changes and pray ultimately that nothing will break downstream. Super excited. There is a lot more to Paradime, of course, but today we focused on what were some of the key features and additions that you get by using Paradime compared with dbt Cloud. But yeah, thanks for being here and excited for what's coming next.